In 1988, a massive rocket fuel plant exploded in the middle of a populated Nevada community. But the craziest part? It was originally built in the middle of nowhere. When the PEPCON facility opened in the late 1950s, it sat completely isolated, separated from the public by a massive desert buffer zone. This extreme isolation was intentional. They manufactured a highly volatile oxidizer used to power NASA space shuttles, ammonium perchlorate. But as Henderson, Nevada boomed over the next few decades, developers marched new residential neighborhoods further and further into the sand. Slowly, that crucial safety buffer completely vanished. By the 1980s, suburban sprawl placed family homes just a stone's throw from thousands of tons of explosive chemicals. The facility was now swallowed whole by the city. So when a fire finally ignited that volatile rocket fuel, the resulting shockwaves ripped through those new neighborhoods, guaranteeing a community-wide disaster. The tragedy at PEPCON was more than an industrial accident. It was the fatal consequence of unchecked urban sprawl building a city right up to a known bomb.
On May 4, 1988, a routine structural repair at an industrial plant unexpectedly turned into a desperate race for survival. It didn't happen all at once. This catastrophe was triggered by a deadly three-step chain reaction. Step 1. The fuel. Inside the wind-damaged building, a highly combustible fuel source had quietly accumulated, a thick layer of fiberglass and white ammonium perchlorate dust. All it took was a single spark from a maintenance worker's welding torch to instantly ignite the entire mixture. Step 2. The defense collapses. As the flames rapidly multiplied, workers immediately grabbed the plant's water hoses to fight back. But within seconds, the system suffered a catastrophic failure, and the hose pressure dropped to a useless trickle. Step 3. The escape. Staring at the limp hoses and massive flames, the crew realized the building was completely lost. They made a split-second decision to drop their equipment and sprint for the exits. That routine repair doomed the plant. But ironically, the broken water system forced an immediate evacuation, saving the workers just moments before the final, unsurvivable explosion. An entire manufacturing plant was instantly vaporized, leaving behind nothing but this massive crater. So what kind of weapon causes this level of total destruction? It wasn't a bomb. It started as a localized fire, burning out of control inside a factory. But the real danger was lying in wait, just feet away. Thousands of metric tons of a highly combustible chemical called ammonium perchlorate, stored in tight bulk containers. As the intense heat from the inferno reached the closest pallets, the packaging gave way, triggering a series of deceptively minor container pops. But those small pops released massive amounts of localized energy, which instantly ignited the bulk containers right next to them. The heat forced a fatal cascade, with the detonations rapidly feeding on each other and growing exponentially larger as the fire ripped through the entire storage grid. Just minutes after the very first spark, the chain reaction reached its terrifying climax. A final, catastrophic explosion instantly obliterated the entire site. So the massive crater left behind wasn't the work of a single bomb. It was thousands of tons of stored chemicals, caught in a rapid, unstoppable chain reaction of escalating detonations. When the ultimate detonation hit the Las Vegas Valley, it stopped acting like a bomb and behaved like a natural disaster. To grasp its true scale, you must track the destruction across 3 distinct layers. It starts at ground zero, with a raw energy yield equivalent to 250 tons of TNT. That puts this explosion in the same category as a small nuclear-free airburst. By detonating just above the surface, the initial blast reflects off the Earth, doubling its outward destruction. But the energy didn't just stay in the air. It struck the ground so hard that it registered a 3.5 magnitude on the Richter scale. The impact triggered a man-made earthquake, shaking the underground rock of the entire valley. Then came the delayed, above-ground shockwave. Radiating outward for miles, this physical air blast carried immense kinetic energy. The atmospheric pressure was strong enough to rip wooden doors completely off their hinges, and the kinetic force shattered glass windows across a massive residential radius. So measuring an explosion of this magnitude means looking far past the initial fireball. You must measure its combined footprint, a nuclear-level yield, a 3.5 magnitude earthquake, and a miles-wide structural wrecking ball. A Kid Marshmallow factory exploded. The massive blast wiped out the surrounding neighborhood. Looking at the catastrophic damage, you would expect a staggering loss of life. But miraculously, almost no one died.
To understand how this disaster unfolded, you have to look at the destruction from the inside out. The workers inside the plant actually noticed early warning signs before the catastrophe hit. That brief head start triggered a frantic evacuation. Because they got out just in time, only 2 people lost their lives in the explosion. But escaping the building didn't mean they were safe from the blast itself. Those fleeing couldn't outrun the intense shockwaves, which sent structures collapsing and glass flying into the streets. That unavoidable physical trauma resulted in severe injuries for nearly 400 people. While the human toll was miraculously low, the physical landscape was completely erased. The factory itself was leveled, and the blast radius tore through local homes and schools. In a matter of seconds, the explosion inflicted over $70 million in devastating collateral damage. Early warnings saved the workforce, but they couldn't stop the blast from leaving a $70 million scar on the town.
When the physical destruction finally stopped, the disaster was far from over. It triggered a multi-layered chain reaction that forced an entire industry to answer for its failures. The immediate fallout was a grueling multi-year legal war. Dozens of law firms and insurance companies battled it out, culminating in a massive $71 million settlement for the victims. But to secure that payout, investigators had to prove exactly why the plant was liable. They uncovered a completely broken safety culture and catastrophic housekeeping on site. Workers were leaving incompatible, highly dangerous chemicals sitting right next to each other, a deadly oversight known as inadequate storage separation. Those specific, highly documented local failures couldn't be ignored by the rest of the country. They became the direct catalyst for a nationwide legislative revolution. Regulations for storing hazardous chemicals were completely rewritten from the ground up, and mandatory emergency response plans were forced onto every manufacturing plant. So the final footprint of this tragedy wasn't just the millions paid out in court. It is the strict baseline of industrial safety standards that protects American workers today.